Lisa, you can switch on your camera now. Hi guys, this is Nidhi, your host for today. I hope you guys are doing great and staying safe. Welcome to this amazing workshop with Lisa, where she's going to demonstrate and share some really cool tips and tricks on lettering composition. Today's event is brought to you by Printer by Designhill, which is a creative print-on-demand marketplace where you can discover and buy 50 plus unique products, gifts, and artworks created by artists from around the world. So moving ahead, let me introduce our guest for today. We have with us Lisa Chang. Lisa is a self-taught hand letterer and has been lettering for over 2 years now. In that time, she has not only created entertaining lettering pieces for her followers, but also produced tutorials and short lessons on the different lettering fundamentals. She streams weekly on Twitch as a way to continue teaching those interested in learning about lettering. She has also created lettering-based logos, t-shirt designs, and jewelry designs for clients. Wow, so how it all started, Lisa, please say a quick hi to the audiences and please tell us more about yourself.
Hey guys, good morning. And there are quite a few of you here today. So like Harshi just said, I am a self-taught hand letterer. So everything I've done has been learning online through these like free workshops and resources. So I love like giving back to the community by providing this kind of workshop for you guys.
Wow, so lovely to have you here, Lisa, today. Before we start the session, guys, I have a couple of announcements to make. You can take the screenshot of this event and put it on your Instagram story, tag Designhill DH, Typography Designers Club, and no La Lettering, which is Lisa's handle. One lucky winner will have a chance to win a PS gift card worth $50. Along with that, since you could join us for today's event, we have a couple of offers for you, which my colleague Harshita will be sharing in the chat section every now and then. So please keep an eye on the chat section to get your offer. Also, guys, we will also be taking up questions during the event. So please feel free to put your questions in the questions tab, not in the chat section, but in the questions tab, because in chat section they can get lost. One more very important announcement is that we are also giving certificates for this event. So please stick till the end and make sure you are there to get your certificates. Let's quickly look at Designhill, what Designhill is all about. So Lisa, over to you. Let's begin with the session.
Okay, let me share my camera. Okay. Hopefully it's not too dark. I apologize because it's like 7 a.m. here right now. So my natural light hasn't come through just yet. But
not a problem. Not a problem. Let's get started. Yeah.
Okay. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about some tips and tricks about lettering and composition specifically. So the best way to learn is to probably just watch someone do it and explain their steps. And along the way, I'll explain like some tips and tricks that I do to consider about like, you know, how do I place words and how do I use styles and how do I combine everything? So today we're going to focus on this quote by Patton Oswalt's wife. It's called, "It's chaos, be kind." So whenever I start a piece, I write down the quote first. So let me do that here. So it's a very short quote, and the reason is we don't have that much time today, so I can't really do a long quote. The short quotes can be fun to do as well. So as you can see, there's 4 words. And so now we're going to choose the most important words that we want to emphasize, because when you have the words that you want to emphasize, you know they're going to be in different style, they're going to be in different size. So in this quote, I would choose chaos and kind as the most important words, and then it's and be would be the small words and less important to the whole overall quote. Okay, and feel free to ask questions along the way. I'll try to answer them. Okay, so the first thing to consider is what kind of overall shape of composition do I want to do? Generally, you can just choose different shapes, geometric shapes like a square, a circle, a triangle, or like my favorite is always a rectangle. But in this case, since it's like 4 letters or 4 words, it's pretty evenly spaced, so we can just do like a square. That's the easiest way to go. So we're going to go with a square, and then we're going to start lettering. So I just write down the words first. Sorry, without thinking about like what style I want to use. So because it's only 4 words, it's much easier to just go line by line and be symmetrical, because it's four words, simple, short, and the number of letters are about the same. Okay. So now that I have a general layout down, I'm going to just add in some details. For example, there's like a lot of space between here for be and kind. So I'll probably just turn this into a banner to fill in that space. And then up here, I think it's fine. So I'm just going to start doing lettering styles. And for simple words, I generally just do this like thin upstroke, thick downstroke style, because it's easy. And oh, can you not hear me? Ooh. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay, you can hear. Okay, great. Let me just make sure everything's okay. Okay. So then the basic small text, I just do thin downstroke or thin upstroke, thick downstroke, like that. And then for these bigger important words, I'm going to do different styles. So the very basic style you can ever do is block letters. So that's what we're going to do here. And then once you have your block letters down, you can add little details to make it different from each other. And it looks like it's a different style, but it's really the same basic style of a block letter.
Lisa, we have lost you. Can you hear us through your second device?
I can hear you guys.
Okay, but
Sorry.
yeah, another device has been switched off. I mean, Lisa Chang has lost internet connection, is what it says. I can see the screen where you are drawing, but I can't see you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay. Trying to enable my camera, but it won't let me. Sorry.
I think you have logged out from your another email ID.
Ah, okay, let me reload.
Okay, can you guys hear? Can you guys see Lisa? Ira says she can see Lisa.
Oh, Let me see. No, yeah.
Yeah.
It's loading. I don't know why it's not. Thank you guys for replying. And I do apologize for technical difficulties. I do live in the country where the internet is not always the most stable. So
Uh,
hopefully.
I think you can continue with the you can continue with the lettering as of now, like right now, and
Okay.
then maybe we can try login in another 15 minutes, maybe.
Okay, I think I got it to work.
Yeah.
But for now, let us continue.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so now we're gonna
lettering
do
style for
the lettering style for kind,
and
and we're just gonna do block letters for now, and we're gonna add some details later on. So the kind of details you can add are like making it 3D or making it into a serif style. Right now the letters I'm doing are all sans serif. Oh, you can see me. Great. Um, so yeah, we're going to just keep doing block letters. And so now we have a general layout.
Right.
So as you can see, there's also space here. And the great thing about having 4 words that are somewhat similar in number of letters per word is that you can make it very symmetrical. So in this case, I'm going to make this into a banner as well. But it's too big, so I'm going to shrink it. So symmetry is always an easy way to help you guide your composition because symmetry looks good. All right, so this is what I'm going to go with. And then to differentiate between chaos and kind, I'm just going to make kind into a 3D word, I guess. And there we have it. And I'm going to shrink this. Okay, so somewhat complete. So now I'm going to ink it. And as you ink your lettering piece, be careful not to smudge it, first of all. And second of all, consider like the overall picture. And if you need to fill in extra space, you can do that with your, well, as you ink, really. And as I do this, I'm going to give you a little bit more tips and tricks that you can consider while you're lettering. So another way of choosing lettering styles is letting the word guide you. So for example, if it's rounded, it's like a happier word. So if you have happy, you can do bubble letters. So instead of these sharp corners, you can do like rounded corners. And then faux calligraphy, if you can do that, is always great for filling in space. What is type lettering? I'm not entirely sure what you mean. I think it's probably just like creating fonts out of lettering styles. So like instead of typing it as a font, you have hand-drawn fonts. And then I'm going to tell you a mistake I made after I'm done. Okay, so now I'm going to do the 3D part. And the 3D is a little bit more difficult to pick up, but if you practice and you do it like every day, then it's going to be a very important part of your lettering arsenal, because it's the easiest way to make things look fun and different and spice it up. All right, so I'm going to tell you my mistake. Because I added on the 3D letter after, my kind is not centered to everything else, which is kind of annoying, but there are fixes. And I'm going to show you that after I erase. So spacing is a very important part of lettering composition. If some spots are too tight and other spots are too spread out, then it's going to look terrible. You don't mind the mistake? Thank you. But you can add little doodles on the side to make it a little bit less unsymmetrical. So for example, I'm going to add these little squishy rounded lines. And I'll add it to some other spots as well. You can also add circles and dots and other like leaf-like designs. And then let me just ink that. So even if you make mistakes, it's okay. We all make mistakes. All right. So it's a little bit less off kilter, which is what I'm aiming for. What kind of pen am I using? This is the Tombow Budanesque, I don't know how to pronounce it, hard tip. Yes, I love this for like lettering because it's a brush pen, but it's still a hard tip, so you can do thick, thin lines, but also control your lines very well. So, all right. Now that I'm done with the inking, I'm just going to add in the details. So for example, with the banner, I can add in little lines. And then I'll color in the letters. Generally, I like to color in a lot of my letters, but it does take a lot more time. So I think today I'll just color in the smaller, shorter words. And then here's another tip and trick. After you erase your outlines, definitely go back with your black pen to make it darker. Because when you erase, it makes the lines a lot lighter, and then it doesn't look as good. But if you can outline it with your black again, the contrast will be much better. And then we can do the same with B. And we're going to change this lettering style a little bit into a serif. So I'm just going to extend it out. This part, and now it's the same base as your first letter or first word, but as you can tell, it looks a little bit different. So my ideas, a lot of it is just practice. So I've been doing this for like over 2 years. And in the beginning, I also had the same problem of not knowing, what kind of style to use or where to put the words. But really, you just have to experiment. And sometimes it fails and it looks terrible. But other times, it looks good. And you remember it and you use it for the next time. At least that's what I did. But yeah, it's a lot of practice and just trial and error. It is a good pen. I really like this pen. Okay, so for kind, since it's 3D and I don't have time to color it all in, I'm just going to draw the lines at an angle to color it in. So this is a different way of like adding embellishments to your letters. You can do diagonal lines, straight lines, horizontal lines, vertical lines, squiggles, dots. And also 3D letters are great for filling in any extra space you have. So if you feel like the space between your lines of words is a little bit too big, 3Ds are great for that. So a lot of composition is just trying to fill in your overall shape with your letters. So that's the best way to choose your style, really. Some styles lend better to filling in space, and banners are always great for filling in space. All right, so again, I'm going to outline it because otherwise it's not dark enough. And I always just outline the outside. So you can tell a difference. This is much darker than this one or this one. Oh, and I forgot to do this one. So then that's it for kind. And in chaos, I'm just going to outline it in black. And then I'll show you guys how to do embossing letter style. So I'll do that later. So for embossing letter style, it's like a 3D, another kind of 3D version, but instead it's like it's popping out towards you. So you just draw a line following your letter and then make triangles at the edges. Triangles, triangles. And then when you have these like crossbars, you just have to add in some angular lines there. And same with the A. So right now it doesn't look like much, it just looks like random lines. But we're going to add some shading and detail later. So more light. All right. So just in case you guys have any questions about shading, you just have to decide where your light source is. And I always put my light source up here on the upper right hand corner. So I know that this part's going to be bright and this part's going to be dark. So we're just going to shade in these areas. So this part's going to be bright. That means this part's going to be dark. Sorry, my face camera disappeared again. So same here. This is going to be dark. And then this part's going to be bright. Bright, dark. So this is just shading. So you're using your light source as a guide to where to shade. And again, it's going to be dark. And then this part's going to be bright. This part's going to be dark. Okay. So I've had it pencil sketched in, and it kind of looks like 3D. I don't know if you can tell, but that's the look I'm going for. So now I'm just going to go back with my pen and draw my lines. Thanks, guys. So yeah. I do have like a little tutorial on this style of lettering on my Instagram. So if you're following me there, you might have seen me do this before. Because this was a pretty often requested lettering style that people wanted to see done. All right, forgot to ink these parts.
Wow, this is lovely.
Thank you. And I just realized I shaded this part. I forgot to shade this part. So yeah, now I go back with my pen and I just lightly shade in these areas. I'm not going to color it in completely. Because you want to keep that line there visible. It's better if you use like a gray pen, but I don't have one right now, so just doing some light shading. Thanks for the follow, you guys. I've also started like a series of tutorials this year actually, so perfect timing. All right, I'm gonna erase my pencil marks. And then I'm gonna go back and ink it a little bit more. Okay, it kind of looks messy, but that's also a certain style. Don't be afraid to like go over your lines again. And it actually makes a big difference in terms of contrast and colors, especially if you're just doing black and white. I definitely recommend you going over your lines again. And a lot of the lettering I do is black and white because it's easier. I'm not very good with color or color theory, really. Okay, and so I made a mistake here with this line, so I'm just going to take my white pen and color over it, and it's gone. Also, I'm going to take my white pen and add little details to my black so it's not so black. I do like to break up the little black areas. And you can add like lines, dots, squares, whatever you want. And because this part is pretty white still, I'm just going to add little highlight details. So again, my light source is upper right hand corner, which means these parts are going to be the highlighted areas. And I think that's it. I'm going to color these little doodles in and then add some details to them. So doodles are great for like just if you have extra space or you want to balance things out. But don't do too many of them because otherwise you want your focus to be on your words, not on your doodles. Although I guess if you really want to make drawing your focus, that's fine too. But too many elements will make it too messy and people won't know what to look at. You want to draw their eyes to your words, not too many things because it's too confusing. And it takes a little practice. Like sometimes I'll overdo it because I don't know when to stop. I just keep going. And then I realize, oh, I probably should have stopped like 10 doodles ago. But so the next time I don't do as many doodles. So it's like a learning process.
All right. Once you finish this, we're gonna take up a few questions that are there in the questions tab, and there are many questions there.
Okay. Let me see.
You would have to switch on your camera where we can see you, Lisa.
Okay, let me try this again. Give me 1 minute. I do have one last detail to add for this, which is
Yes, please go ahead.
let me see if this works. Okay, so I always add shadows to my lettering pieces because it makes it pop off the page a little bit better. So let me grab my gray pen. And then again, my light source in the upper right hand corner. So I'm just going to add my shadows to the bottom left corners of everything. And it makes it look even more 3D. So it's a trick that I will always do, and I recommend many people do it because it really makes your piece look like makes your piece come to life, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So this is a gray pen that you have used to give it an extra effect.
Yep. It's you can use any gray pen. This is just a simple Crayola, which we get for pretty cheap here in America. But if you find, you can also do it with pencil. If you don't have a gray pen, you just have to color it in a little bit more. But anything that's gray and light, just
It's
don't use
giving it
black.
it's giving it a shadowy effect, like there's a shadow, like it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's like my secret.
Wow, this is so pretty.
So yeah, that's a simple layout. Normally I take about an hour per piece. Oh, let me see if my camera's gonna ever work. Yeah, I don't know why my other thing won't work. So let me grab the questions.
Yeah, I'll read them out for you. So this one particular question by Jen has got 10 upvotes. So
Okay.
the question is, if it is a longer quote, how do you decide how many specific words you are going to have the focus on? Is there a rule as to how many to have maximum?
Oh, not really. Like it just depends on the quote. So if that quote has like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 major words, then I would use emphasis on all of them. But they can be different sizes. They don't all have to be huge sizes. So you have to do like a hierarchy of words, like which ones are the most important words. That's up to you to decide because it depends on your quote. And then if they're not as important, but they're still better than like it's or a or the or b, then you might want to make them a little bit bigger. You can also make banners for emphasis. So you can do like a whole bunch of words in a banner and that will emphasize those words. So there are different tips and tricks. I wouldn't say there's a maximum number of words that you should use or you shouldn't use. It just depends on the quote, really.
Cool. So, Jen, I hope that answers your question. And Himanshi, above Jen, had a similar question. Himanshi, I guess your question has also been answered now. So, moving ahead with another question, which is by um, Nina. She asks, "What are your tips in creating straight and aligned letters with a pleasing layout without using a ruler?"
Oh, that's a great question. So as you can tell, I don't know if you can see, but on this paper that I'm using, there's little dots. Um, and this is what I use for most of my lettering if it's not a commission. For myself, as a way to practice, I use these dot paper because you don't have to draw lines. You don't have to draw any guidelines. You just use the dots on the paper. So it's a great kind of paper to practice with. Now, if you're doing commissions and you're going to be sending off the piece, then you're going to have to draw guidelines. There's no way to, unless you can draw straight lines, which I can't. So I always have to draw straight line guidelines, vertical and horizontal. So it helps with my spacing. Spacing is so very important in lettering composition that if you make one area too tight and one area too widespread, then it's not going to look good. So guidelines are very, very important. If you're just practicing and you don't want to draw your guidelines, you can use dot grid paper. You can use graphing paper. Anything with lines already on it will help you practice. But when you're going to do work for a client or for like commission, then you're going to have to, regardless, draw guidelines. That's very important.
Right. So let's get ahead with another question with that. SS asks, when centering a word that is three-dimensional, do you take into consideration the shadow, or does centering focus only on the word without the shadow?
If you center, so if everything is going to be, if you're going to do shadows for all the words, then I would just center the 3D word without consideration for the shadows, because the shadows are going to be the same afterwards. They're all going to be the same. So it's just when I did this, I did not consider my 3D-ness, so that's why it's not centered. So when you do your composition, you want to consider keep in mind like 3D. Depending on where you're going to do your three-dimensional side, you can do it on the left, you can do it on the right, you can do up, you can do all these. But just make sure that you keep that in mind when you're doing your layout so you don't make my mistake of like not centering it. So you don't have to worry about the shading so much, just worry about the 3D when you're doing your composition.
All right, cool. So, Lisa, we're gonna break for 2 minutes here, and then get back. Maybe you can, demonstrate a few words, in another lettering style, maybe. So,
Sure.
and also take a few more questions because we have a lot coming in by the people who are here. We have this event full. We have 184 people who are live with us right now, so it's really very overwhelming. Thank you guys for being such a great audience and making Designhill events a very, very big success. So, guys, let's quickly break for mid-roll and we'll be back.
I've always been creative and always been an artist. As a young girl, I used to paint rocks and I used to sell them for a quarter on the street. And I just fell in love with it. It just grew into a passion of mine. I started looking on the web and I came across Designhill, and they had a design contest to design a logo, and I entered it and I won. And I was like, oh, this is really great. I can pick and choose what type of logos or design projects I want to work on. And it allows me to be creative, keep my hands, with my tools and working. So it's kind of nice. It's really easy to use. You can scroll through the projects and there's sections that you could go by. It's really easy. There's a few clients who have come back to use the one-on-one projects. There's one client in particular, she owns a vintage shop, and I designed her logo, and she came back. She needed a design for a flyer, and she really liked the illustrations that I did for her, so she came back a couple of times with projects. I would recommend it, especially if you're a designer that's starting out and you want to learn from other designers, seasoned designers, it's a place to keep in the game and keep using your tools. It makes me feel great, and it kind of confirms that I should be doing this. And I love to see logos that I've designed out, and proud of that. And I think that the clients are so happy that their logo represents what they do and, you know, makes them look good. It's a collaboration. It's good for me, and it's definitely good for them.
All right, guys, that was a quick shout out to Print Shop by Designhill, was leading creative marketplace. I hope you guys are taking the event screenshot and putting on your Insta story, tagging Designhill, Typography Designers Club, and Lisa's handle. Over to you, Lisa. Again, you want to show us a few more quotes, maybe?
Sure. I think I saw someone say 3D letters. So I'm going to just show you how I learned it, which is similar to shading. So again, just pick your light source, which I always do upper right hand corner, even though I should probably change it up. So here's my light source. Let's do A. So I'm just going to draw my block letter A. It's a little fat, but it's okay. All right, so here's my A. If you're thinking about shadow, because my light source is up here, that means this part is going to be shaded, and this part's going to be shaded. And this part's going to be shaded, this part, and this part. So you're starting to see your 3D letter come to life. So all you have to do is connect your edges. And there's no edge here, but it's just a line here. And then so now you have your 3D A. Let's do a curved letter. So let's do B. Okay, so with B, it's the same. My light source is on the upper right-hand corner. So you can actually start with just 45-degree angle coming off of your edges. And then you're just going to connect your edges. And then in these little areas, it's just going to be here and here. Because again, your light source is on the upper right-hand corner. And there's your 3DB. So it works for all the other letters of the alphabet. Just keep in mind where your light source is, and then connect the edges. You can also use this as a shadow. So instead of connecting your edges, let me think. And then you can just draw like, I don't know how to explain this. But basically, like instead of connecting this edge, you just draw the straight line. And then you color it in, and it's like a shadow. Hopefully that helps. Another style that I very often use is faux calligraphy. So I don't know if many of you have taken calligraphy or brush calligraphy, because I know it's very popular right now. But it's also very hard. Like, it's a skill that takes a lot of practice. It takes muscle memory and all that fun stuff. So the easiest way to do it is to do faux calligraphy. And if you've ever done any kind of cursive, it should be pretty easy. So for example, let's do ABC. And this is just cursive ABC. And then with calligraphy, the thing to keep in mind is that downstrokes have to be thick and upstrokes have to be thin. So with A, this was upstroke, so that means it's thin. But this part's thick because it's a downstroke. And this part is also thick because it's a downstroke. So you're starting to see your calligraphy style come together. With B, this part is thick because you're going down. And then this part is also slightly downstroke, so that's going to be thick as well. And then this is a downstroke, so this is thick. So there's your faux calligraphy. You can do D is the same. So this is up, but this is down, so this is going to be thicker. This is up and down, so this part's going to be thicker. And then so on and so forth. It takes some practice and getting used to, but the best way to learn is also to look at other calligraphy styles out there and then see like which parts are thick and which parts are thin. And then if you want like recommendations for calligraphy classes, let me know. I can definitely give you some. But this is also a frequently used style of mine. And then let me think. Oh, we can do bubble letters, which is just basically your block letters, but they're curved. And a way to change up styles without actually like changing up styles, if that makes sense, is to move your crossbars. So for example, if I do a crossbar down low for the A, it looks like this. But if I do it up high, it looks like this. And it looks like a completely different style, when in reality, it's pretty much the same thing. You're just moving your crossbar. Same with E. I can do it in the middle, which is what we normally do when we're writing. But we can also do it very low, and we can also do it very high. And this changes up the look and feel of the letters as well. You can also change the width of your letters. So let's say we do a really fat E. But we can also do a very thin E. So these like just changing shapes and sizes of your letters and the crossbars, it makes your letters look very, very different. When in reality, it's not. And then ascenders and descenders are also very useful in composition. So ascenders refer to like this part of the D, or like what other ascenders are there? Well, descenders are like G and Q. So these are great because you can, for example, let's say I want to do a composition in this circle. Oh, sorry. And then I have the letter D. Let me think. Well, let's say I want to do the letter. Nope, that doesn't work. All right, we're just going to do letter D. And this ascender can be used to fill in this space. And this is a D. And the same with descenders. I want to fill in this space with the G. And so I can use my descender to fill it in. So, yeah. Let me see if there's any questions that you guys have. Maybe. So, yeah. Okay. Can't really think of any other styles to do right now.
Somebody requested you to draw the alphabet Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can do that. Let me just create some space. So for Z, 3D is actually pretty hard because it's so weird. Let me draw my block letter first. All right, so there's my block letter Z. So again, my light source is upper right-hand corner, which means my shadow will be here and here and here for sure. So it's this bar that's going to be a little bit weird. I do it down here because it's kind of shaded by the light. Oh, I'm doing 3D. So just connect the corners. And it's going to be a thinner line because the shading is not supposed to be that thick. And so there you have your Z. I know some people do it here. I don't think there's like a right or wrong answer. And that's also 3D. So
we have a very interesting question by SS again. How do you decide how much space to give between letters? Could you give some tips on spacing top-heavy letters beside each other, example V or T, and when upper cases are beside lower cases?
Okay. Yeah, T is actually a big pain in the butt because of this crossbar at the top. So whenever I'm doing composition, what I do is I extend the crossbar and then just put the V under or whatever letter you have next. So there's no like right or wrong answer when it comes to the amount of space between letters. It just depends on you. Whatever you decide, you make it consistent. Consistency is probably the most important part. So if you're doing like letters super far apart, then this VT thing is not necessary. So for example, let's say I'm doing, what's a good word? Vote. Okay. So if I do it all spaced out like this, then you don't have to worry about your top heavy T or your top heavy V. But if you're doing it closer together, like let's say V, then I would move the O a little bit smaller or make it a little bit smaller. Make your crossbar T longer and then make your E a little bit smaller. That way there is that consistency of space between your letters. Hopefully that helps.
Right. That answers your question, SS. Please go ahead. If you have any more tips, any more insights from you, Lisa, we can go ahead, or else we have a lot of questions in the questions tab.
Yeah, no, I'll take all the questions that you guys have.
All right, let me recite a few for you. A lot of people have asked about the pens that you're using, right? So we have 3-4 questions around pen. What kind of pens to use? What are the brand's name, and when to use what kind of pen?
Okay, well, I can share you with like my 4 most used pens that I used here today. So I mentioned the Tombow hard tip. This is like great for outlining and general shading and stuff. I use this Unipin by Uni Mitsubishi it's a brush pen, and I use it mostly to color in large spaces, and I really like this one because it's dark, and the great thing about it is when I use a white pen on top of it, it shows up. So my favorite white pen is Uniball Signo, and it's the 3.38 tip, so it's a little bit thicker, and I like this one because it's the most pigmented white. And then gray, I don't really have a preference. I just use this Crayola because it's cheap here in America. But a lot of manufacturers have gray pens, and it just depends on you. But the white I use mostly for like little details, because otherwise, if it's all black, it's a little bit too dark and depressing, I guess. Here, let me show you some other work. So this is one that I did previously. And so I use a white pen to highlight, to make the letters pop, also to fill in the different spaces between the letters, to fill in, and also like, just to fill in some space. And then the blacks I use for like coloring, and the grays I use for shading. So yeah, hope that helps.
I saw that on your Instagram page as well. This is very pretty.
Thank you.
All right. So one very good question is, how do you get these pretty straight lines? I'm sure that comes with a lot of practice, but do you have any tips to share? How do you get these pretty straight lines? Murillo is asking.
Okay. So yeah, it's a lot of practice, but there's also a trick, especially for like long lines. When you're drawing lines, draw towards you and use your whole arm. Don't like use your wrist because it's not good. But use your whole arm, draw towards you, go slowly, and it's probably the most straight. I actually like to draw away from me because for me that just feels better. But use your whole arm. That's probably the most important part. And that's how you can draw straight long lines. For short lines, you just have to have your dots to guide you. Yeah.
Great. So a lot of practice basically. Rika has a similar question. She says, how do we improve our lettering? Should we start writing alphabets first?
So yeah, when you're learning to letter the first time, definitely learn the basic alphabet, block letters especially, because I feel like everything is built off of block letters. So if you can get your block letters down, then you're probably pretty much set, except for calligraphy, which is a different skill. So start with the letters, do individual letters, and then start combining letters, and then start combining words. That's the order you want to go in. Do not try to go into composition immediately because you're going to get super frustrated and like give up. So you have to have your basic foundation down first, which is your letters. So practice your letters first.
All right. So here's another interesting question by Jen, not related to necessarily to this code, but do you have any advice on lettering ampersands? And as I can never get that proportions right.
Ampersands? Okay, that's a hard one. And one that I'm not personally very good at, but I do this kind of ampersand, which is a lot easier for me. And then I just add the little swashes if I need to. I cannot do this or the other kind of ampersand. The best way to learn is to look inspirations on Google, and then I would say try to trace it as a way to practice. And then when you get familiar with the strokes and the curves, then you can go and try to make your own. But this is my go-to ampersand when I have to do ampersand, because I can't do the other kind of ampersand. Sorry, Jen.
All right, no problem. How to decide for the lettering style that you will incorporate in your work? Ian is asking.
That's a very hard question to answer like off the top of my head. There's no hard and fast rule for like what styles to use. People do say to stick to 2 to 3 styles. So like, you know, don't mix too many different kinds of lettering styles because it gets too busy. The most important is that you use styles that will fill in the space. So if you have an overall composition space in mind, for like example, a square or a circle or a rectangle, then you want to use styles that will fit in that space with all your words. So the words have to fit together. It's like a puzzle. Or if you have ever followed Stefan Kuntz, his idea is that it's like Tetris. You're trying to build a cohesive piece by layering different pieces. And so you're going to build like a puzzle as well to, you know, you got to fit it in. So you use styles, different styles that fit together into this whole space that you have in your mind. The best way to do this is to have a bunch of different kind of lettering styles in your arsenal. So you can look it up on Google, you can look at what other people do, you can create your own style, but just practice many different kinds of style so that you have it in your brain. And so when you go to do your composition, you're like, okay, this style that I've seen before, I've used before would fit in well here, and this style would fit in well here. So yeah, think of it as a puzzle that you're trying to put together.
Right, makes sense. So we will take two more questions for today, and then we will have to wrap the session because we are already ahead of time. But let's take this question by Sia. Sia says, can you give tips on how to add glistening effect?
Oh, I'm sorry, what kind of effect?
Glistening effect. I'll
Glistening effect. Oh.
Yeah. Can you see the question on now?
Oh yes, I can. Yeah. So glistening effect is, well, I'll just show you this one. It's up. So like a bubble letter. Again, it has to do with where your what you call light source is. So in this case, my light source is up here, as usual, which means it's going to, the light is going to fall on the top of your letters. So definitely every top corner is where you're going to want to do your, we call it highlights. And then if you think about like a balloon, this part is also going to be highlighted because the light's going to be shining directly on here as well.
Right.
So technically I could also put it here because again, the light's going to be shining here and here. Yeah. And here as well. So it just depends on where your light source is. And if you look at, for example, if you look at a bottle, not product placement, but like my light is up here, that means this part is highlighted.
Yeah.
So this part, if you draw it, you're gonna put your glistening effect up here.
All right. All right. Thank you. So there's this question by Ringa. And the question is, why you chose this art?
Why did I choose this art? So like 3 years ago, I started going on Instagram and seeing all these like beautiful calligraphy and lettering. So I actually started off with calligraphy before I moved on to hand lettering. So I just saw so many people doing it and it looked so beautiful, and I was trying to procrastinate on my dissertation. So I was like, oh, maybe I should learn. And once I started calligraphy, I decided that I wanted to do like more styles. So I went into hand lettering and I haven't stopped. And it's just a lot of fun. Like, it's a great stress relief. It's great for mental health. You create something beautiful. I've met so many great people through hand lettering. So it's just been like a very great journey for me. And that's why I'm sticking to it. And that's why I love it.
Well, we love it too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for being here with us today. With that, we will be wrapping up the session. Lisa, any last thoughts for the audience? Any tips, tricks, any piece of motivation for them? Because a lot of people who have joined us today, they're in the early stages of their lettering journey. So please go ahead and share your final thoughts before we wrap up the session.
Yeah, so the one thing I tell people who ask me like, how did I get started and how did I get to where I am is practice, persistence, and luck, really. But mostly practice and persistence. Don't give up. In the beginning, it's going to be very hard. Your work is going to look terrible. If you go back in my Instagram history, you'll see like terrible lettering. It's part of the journey. So don't give up. That's the most important, because, if you give up, then your journey ends. But if you keep going, you can end up creating beautiful pieces like these. So persistence and practice. Practice every day if you can. If you can't, practice every other day. You just want to practice as much as you can. Yeah, that's it. And thank you guys so much for watching and having me here today as well.
Great. We had a lovely audience. We had almost 200 people online with us here today for this session. So thank you so much for being such a lovely audience, guys. I'm sure each one of you has taken notes of what Lisa shared with us today. So with that, this actually brings us to the end of the session with Lisa. It was indeed a value-packed session. There's a lot that we could have discussed. Unfortunately, we are limited by time here. I hope you guys loved the session because I personally did. Once again, I would like to thank Lisa for taking out time to be a part of this event. So,
my pleasure.
thank you so much, Lisa. Guys, but this is not where it ends. We have a lot more events lined up for you in the coming days. The next event is a workshop on the topic Freelancers Guide, how to negotiate and price your work as a designer on 28th of January. So if you have not registered yet for this event, my colleague Harshita will be sharing the link in the chat section. Please go ahead and register for it. If you guys are interested, you can also check out our events, the recording of our event section, events in the events section of the website. Also on our YouTube channel, the link will be shared by Harshita again in the chat. For all the business owners who are listening to this and wish to source high quality graphic designs and build their brand today, please visit designhill.com. We have recently launched some cool design challenges which are worth $5,000 per month. Any designer or non-designer can be a part of it and create some awesome designs using our DIY design tool called Designhill Studio. The link will be in the chat section again by my colleague Harshita. Check more about it, guys. It's really interesting. We have also announced the first batch of winners yesterday only for those challenges, and it's doing really well. On that note, I would like to say bye to everyone who joined us here today. Take care, guys, and stay safe.
Bye, guys.